Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network's YouTube channel. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can find us on Facebook and stay up to date on our Facebook group, or find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at ConsciousRadioNetwork.com for podcasts, hosts, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you might be on this spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's weekly podcast series, The Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Meckes. If this is your first time tuning in, watching, please click subscribe, like, share, comment, and follow us wherever you listen to your podcast. Harnessing Your Inner Alchemist. Our guest today is the author of the book, Becoming Authentically Me, and currently writing her second book of her time at Art of Living in India. She is a soul empowerment coach, divine channel, and light language healer. Being Dutch, she is a bit of a bike messenger between here and there, delivering messages from many master teachers integral to helping elevate the consciousness of humanity and the planet. She hopes that people will awaken to what life is about, unlocking their own potential and becoming authentically and wholesome within themselves. Let's welcome to the show for the first time, Brigitte Visser. Yes. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You are very, very welcome. And as a warning for everybody out there, we might have more shows, because after going briefly before we started recording and some of your biography, we've got a lot of research in common. So how did this all start for you?
By being born?
Yes. Good answer. And that was not a trick question.
Oh, well, I was born in 1974, so I'm a 70s kid, 80s kid. And prior to being born, Paul, I must have ticked every box of trauma, every experience. I thought, yeah, I can do this. This is fine. Yes, I'll be fine. And then I was born, and I was knocked out cold, of course.
Yeah.
I came from the light into the cold of this world, and I forgot everything. So I forgot everything I signed up for. But to put it in a nutshell, so we all go through trauma. We all go through different experiences, and it's all about how you decide to heal from them. So for me, my childhood was fine to a certain degree until we moved to Singapore. Well, we moved to Singapore and then Malaysia. And then at the age of 10, I was abused by a friend of the family because my dad was fired from a company that he was a VP of, and due to disagreements, and we stayed with a friend of the family for several months.
Yeah.
And I never said anything to my parents because it was a different era growing up in the 80s. I didn't even understand it properly. And I was also very quiet, I'm not necessarily introvert, but just more quiet kid. And then we moved, and there was a time, for a year, that my sister and I didn't go to school because there was just no money. And eventually we went back to Holland. And that was in April of 1988. And my dad had always said that when he would cross the ocean, he said that he would pass. He would die. And my mom thought that was a whole load of baloney at the time. But I think it was so ingrained within my dad that it's kind of sort of manifested. So he suffered from coronary heart disease pretty much straight when he landed in Holland. And then he didn't take his medication. And then in July of that same year, he died of cardiac arrest. He was cycling out near the beach, not far from the beach, and he just fell off his bike, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah, and he did leave a letter. He was actually a Rosicrucian.
Oh, wow.
And yes, and so people are like, what's a Rosicrucian? Well, there we go all the way back to, even the mystery schools. We can go back to Atlantis. But it was, we fast forward to the Renaissance period, and then we have alchemy. So these are all things, and people think alchemy, okay, that's very physical, turning lead to gold, but actually it's a transformation of character. And it's, right, turning the heaviness of your experiences, alchemizing these, healing these, and turning them into gold. And so that you become more aware of yourself and more enlightened, so to speak, because the road to enlightenment, oh my gosh, it takes thousands of lifetimes.
Yeah. And speaking, and for those who follow this show and this podcast, I'm going to throw a word in there, or Sir Francis Bacon, just to throw that out there. One of the awesome alchemists, very shaded in history. But for those who can research that.
Sir Francis Bacon, yes, the illegitimate son of Elizabeth I, the pseudonym for Shakespeare, and also the Ascended Master Saint Germain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I work a lot with Saint Germain. I love him. I really, really do. So that was one of the reasons that. It's probably because I didn't know it at the time that my dad was a Rosicrucian, because back in the 80s, we didn't have Google. So he got all his modules through the mail, but it was very expensive at the time. And my mom said, we can't afford this. You really need to focus on your family. But he was so engrossed in it. And also meditation. But because he went through his own trauma as a child, because he went into a seminary, his parents put him into a seminary at the age of 15, and he was abused in there. And so he left, and he got married, but it wasn't to my mom, it was someone else. And then he met my mom after that. But it's that was very interesting to me. And many years later, when I started channeling, that's when I found out, oh, my dad was really all into this, and I didn't know all this sacred geometry and everything. So it was kind of like a continuation at the time. But going back to when I was 14, when he crossed over, I was a mess. That really knocked me, knocked the wind out of my sails. And my mom had to start from scratch because he didn't leave anything. He left her with nothing.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, my mom had to raise two teenagers. And, we wore secondhand clothes. Does it matter? Absolutely not. It's better than running around naked, right? So, yeah, and school was different for me there because I was very, very skinny. So I got bullied a lot and I felt very insecure. And because I was so scared of boys, I often say this, if there was a guy in the hallway and my classroom was on the other end, I take a different route because that's how scared I was. Wow. It was just incredible, that fear that I kept walking around with, and I just wanted to be invisible. So I wish, I walked around like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. That's how bad it was. And I kept, I didn't heal that. I just kept carrying it with me until at the age of 19, actually, my mom, we were watching an Oprah Winfrey show about abuse, and my mom said to both me and my sister, well, I'm glad that neither of you got abused. Well, I kept my mouth shut. And that's when it came out. And the first thing she said to me was, wasn't your dad, was it? I said, no. So I told her who it was. And it was very difficult for me to talk about because of all the guilt and the shame, carrying these labels. And prior to that, even at the age of 16, my mom tried to put me on a modeling course. That didn't help me because I was so rigid. I felt like I was walking like Atlas with the weight of the world on my shoulders.
Yeah.
And that didn't help because it's not getting to the root of the issue. So it's trying to fix something that, by trying to walk straight and trying to crick up my confidence, but it's really not getting to the root. And, a hairdresser plucked me out from this course, and he wanted me to be one of the main models. But I had hair till here, and he chopped it into...
Whoa. Well, we lost her.
Do you know what?
I don't know what happened. That's the first time.
I was still in the studio, and it just went boom, and I was still in there. Gosh.
Wow. Yeah, that's the first time it's happened. Like literally just dropped out completely. It's like, okay. That's why I pre-record this stuff. It used to, when I used to do the show live and stuff like this happened, forget it. Bad show.
But you know what? I was still in the studio. It's just boom. It's just,
yeah, that is weird.
Weird.
Huh. Yeah. Well, I get a signal on both my feed and your feed on the on my panel down below the studio, so I can see whether it's a good signal or a bad signal. But both of our signals are like really good. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it was a internet disconnect or something.
Maybe yes.
Who knows? Well, luckily I could go back and edit that out. So
yes, I know.
Thank God. Where did we leave off? Something about your hair.
I know. What was I there?
As soon as that's weird too, because as soon as you said cut, it stopped. It.
Maybe they're having some fun up there.
They are. Yes. I'm sure of it.
Okay, so do you want me to repeat that part?
Maybe just a little bit.
A little bit. Okay, so fine. So my mom put me on this modeling course, which didn't help me because I was still carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders, and trying to band-aid something is not going to work when you have very deep-rooted issues. So when my mom put me on this course, I was picked up by a hairdresser to be one of the main models, and I had hair till here, and he actually cut it into a pixie cut. I felt horrified. I felt so ugly. I got paid the 75 guilders, but it didn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
And so, and my mom actually, she always wanted me to talk about what had happened in my youth, and I never wanted to talk about it. It was too difficult for me. And so even in the modeling industry, because I continued with that, and it was very difficult for me because I was very naive. I was not thick-skinned, and even there I was assaulted. And I never got a job, really, only several. It was always, it was like a cattle market, very superficial. It's very egotistical. It's all about beauty on the outside, not the inside.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with it. So going to castings was always very difficult because I'd be there for stand in the queue for 2 hours, sometimes longer. Wow. And then they call me in, look through my portfolio, take my comp card, and then they'd call next because I just wasn't their type. They're like, I look too much like Linda Evangelista or Brooke Shields or Nikki Taylor. And then even as I got older, they were saying at 25 I was too old.
Wow, 25.
Yeah, I know. It's too old for the industry at the time. And it did knock my confidence. It really, really did. And the only thing that kept me going, because even when I was out at school, I would often throw away my lunches, but I would sit and eat at the dinner table. So I had a problem, but it just became a part of me, a part of who I was. And for many, many years, that was the only thing I could control, not eating properly, starving myself and just getting by with just enough fuel to keep me going. But I was skinny as hell. And people would ask me, why? How come you're so skinny? Well, it's my metabolism. that was half the truth. But I was just very good at that because I could control that. And the same with working like a dog. I could work many hours, have several jobs, work 7 days a week because that's what kept me going. That's how I suppressed my emotions.
Yeah.
And still I didn't heal because I rolled into dysfunctional relationships. The first relationship I had was at, I always say 21 and a half. And my mom and my stepdad did not like my first boyfriend because he was Turkish. And, the Turkish have a bad rep in Holland. And I said, it's so different out where I lived because I was living out in Istanbul. I've traveled the world, Paul. I've actually moved more times than my age. So I'm a bit of a nomad.
Nothing wrong with that. I mean,
no, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, by nature, the human beings are nomadic.
Yes, they are. Yes. And so, yeah, rolling into dysfunctional relationships, I was always trying not to hurt the other person. People pleaser to a T, always trying to figure it out financially, keeping many afloat. But the thing that I did not realize at the time is that we each have to walk our own journey. And when we try and help someone else to the end, go to the ends of the earth for them, you are stumping their growth. But not just their growth, you're also stumping your own growth because you're not learning from the experiences. And I was a donkey. Seriously, I really was. And in 2009 is when I really hit the bottom of that rock. Not the first time, but really it just opened my eyes because I had an incredible reflection and I have a lot of love for him today. And as a matter of fact, everyone that's been a part of my life and is now left, regardless of what they've put me through, even though it was of no fault of my own when I was a child, I have forgiven them because they didn't know any better. They were raised according to the conditioning of probably their parents and so forth and so forth. And people always ask me, how can you forgive others? And I said, how can you not? Because love is your divine essence. Why would you walk around with all that bitterness and all that hate, the judgment, the opinions? Why? Let it go. It's just your ego that's happily munching away in the front seat. And that's all it is. Whilst your soul is in the trunk or in the boot of the car, crying away, crying out, and like, let me out.
And not being able to forgive is the reminder of our entrapment within the physical.
Yes.
It's to remind us, it's like, oh, well, we're here in the physical world, we're in body, and that's part of the symptom of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But then we are human, and human means light, a man. So we are walking light man. We are encapsulated, our energy, as I call it, we're encapsulated star. We're encapsulated, come on, what's the English word? So we are encapsulated starlight particles, walking around in this physical embodiment.
Yeah, stardust.
So stardust, star seeds, we're star seeds. So, but in 2009, my ex, he's doing very well now, but he was a part-time crack addict at the time and he came over from the US. I paid for his ticket. It was all right for a little bit. And then he reverted back to his ways, something I had no idea about. He kept it so well hidden from me. And it was really scary for me to see someone on crack and with crack hands. And he would show that to me. And he really wanted to get better. But you needed to have a social, just like in the US, for Holland, you need the same thing. And so he couldn't get into a clinic, and he tried, and we went to several and they wouldn't take him on. So it was a catch-22 situation. And then he got in bed with the Crips in Holland, and he stole from them, and they held him for ransom. And so, yeah, I had to help out the police, and I did. But in the meantime, my mom got me out of Holland in the space of a few days because I was just, I was a shimmer of my former self. I mean, stuff of mine got pawned. I mean, these things happen. It's only material. But when I was out of Holland and I helped the police, they actually found him and they deported him back to the US. Was the leader of the Crips in Holland. He's behind bars now. He called me up and he said, if I ever find you, he's like, I'm going to kill you. And if I ever find your ex, you'll never find him because he'll be dead in a ditch. And this is many years ago, of course, 2009. But it shook me to my core. And I actually tried to take my own life by downing a whole box of ibuprofen, which is a really lame attempt. Yes, I know. And I think my guides must have been looking up there like, what the hell are you doing? So, but my mom said to me, Brigitte, why don't you go see a counselor? So I did, but counseling didn't do anything for me because the counselor just said to me, Brigitte, you are strong enough, you're going to be fine. Oh, that wasn't going to help me. What am I going to do with that? So I had to figure out what to do, and I decided to go the holistic route. Now that agreed with my spirit. For some people, it may be something completely different, and that's fine. Yeah, but Reiki was my saving grace, and I studied many other healing modalities, from aromatherapy to holistic nutrition to EFT, the emotional freedom technique. I was really like this SpongeBob absorbing all this knowledge because I really wanted to get better.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't go on like that anymore because my spirit was so broken. And yet again, if that hadn't happened to me at that time, I wouldn't be who I am kind of today, even though there was another experience that I went through that was very traumatic. And that caused me to, I had another ex in Florida actually, who was very possessive, and he couldn't let me go. And he had this fear of losing me, and he went through a lot of his own stuff. And that's how I rolled into channeling. So it was really me going to an Akashic record healer who helped me, but also, which is past lives for people that don't know. Yeah, very, very powerful because it doesn't only change your energy, it also changes the energy of the other person involved in that past life. And my then mentor, Lania Starhawk, she had a workshop and, to be a channel, divine channel. And so I went. And even though, Paul, I was teaching, because I was a Reiki master, so I was teaching Reiki and also meditative art, helping others. But I was still learning about myself and learning to heal myself. Because honestly, with me, it's often one step forward and two steps back. And that's okay. But so I learned to channel, and it was an experience that was everyone in that class, in that workshop, saw something when they went into meditation and came back out. I saw diddly squat, because when she counted to 3, boom, I went. Heaven knows where I went. And then she counted back from 3, 2, 1, and I was back in the room. Well, I was really upset that I didn't see anything. And people say, well, how did you start to channel them? Well, this is an exercise that Alania gave, and I did that as well when I got home, because I rushed out the workshop, got in my car and drove off. But it was really just sitting with a notepad and a pen and just asking for a message from the divine. That's how she started. Well, I must have been so out of my mind by the time I got home, because I was so exasperated, sat down, did the exact same thing. And I just started writing. And it was Old English prose. And I was actually crying tears of joy. And I thought, oh my God, I'm actually good at something. So Yeah. And it really, really helped me heal myself as well, because I started to ask questions. And not only that, but I made a bucket list, which also helped me a lot. And gradually I scratched everything off the bucket list. But as I said, what works for one person doesn't necessarily have to work for another person. Everyone has their own healing journey. And
Yeah.
trust me, I'm not finished yet.
And we never are. We're never
Nope.
finished. I mean,
Nope.
even when we leave body, and transition, it's like, all right, it's just another chapter.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Keep
it.
on going.
Oh, what have you learned? And you go through your life review. What have you learned?
Yeah.
Could you have done this differently?
Exactly. Now you have a website that people can go check out your work, and it's powersoulhealing.com, correct?
Yes, it is.
Well, let me put that up there. That way people can write it down, check it out. Now let's get into. I want to touch a little bit about, and this can go into another show.
Yep.
So with the Ascended Masters, specifically Saint Germain, which is interesting because I as soon as I saw that, I had to bring this book into the studio. Unveiled Mysteries. This is the original 1939 copy.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
1939 from Godfrey J. King.
Yes.
Yep.
I love that.
All in purple print.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And I got the entire set from 1939.
Oh, wow.
I've got a lot of interesting books that are original, dating all the way back into the 1700s.
That's amazing.
So,
wow.
I'm a book collector. You notice, but yeah, when I read that book and I was like, Saint Germain, whoa! And I got there's so many notes in that book on that sheet of paper.
I have the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, with the channeling of specifically Saint Germain, for some of our followers, listeners, and viewers, what could you tell us about some of the channeling work that you've done in your work with Saint Germain?
Wow, I mean, that's a very vast array that I've channeled with.
Yeah.
Honestly, he is very funny. He has such a sense of humor, and I know that he comes across to many people differently. But without a sense of humor, gosh, I often chuckle. But he talks a lot about fear, because fear is actually false evidence appearing real, but it also means it's actually also the two others. Falling endlessly or arising revolutionary, or fracturing energetically, and abandoning reality.
Yeah.
Those are two others. But he talks a lot about consciousness, a lot about the transformation and the transformational times that we find ourselves in, about our experiences and how we take our experiences so seriously. Why do you do that? He always says experiences are merely, you've got to go with the flow of life. And we don't do that because we desperately cling on to them like drowning rats on a sinking ship. That's what we do because we're so conditioned. And he's always like, this conditioning, you need to get rid of it. It's not real. Everything, he says, is an illusion. Nothing is real. It's like sitting in a simulation. That's what it is.
Yeah.
People go, well, have you ever seen The Matrix? Actually, no. But he calls it the laughing hole of mirrors. That's what the earth is. And the earth is just a school, so to speak. We've chosen to incarnate here. And people are like, yeah, but I didn't choose this. Yeah, actually you did. You absolutely did. Because you want to remember who you are. And he says it's all about a return to love, nothing more, nothing less. Because if we return to that love for ourselves, we have that love for other people. And the ego merely dissipates. You know, all these labels that we've slapped upon our minds, as he always puts it, they're just gone. They dissipate like, as he puts it, like dewdrops in the morning sun. And life could be so different. There's one thing he's always said, that America, when you write the word America down and you spell it differently, it becomes the I am race. They are, yes, they are the front runners of the new golden age.
Yeah.
And so everything is collapsing in the grid, which is supposed to happen because our souls were not meant to live this way. Why do people suffer from, many people suffer from dis-ease? I call it, don't call it disease, I call it dis-ease, because he always puts it, we are energetic beings of the divine.
Yeah.
That's what we are. We are manifestors. We are creators. And we are part of God consciousness because we're all basically brothers and sisters of the light. There is no differentiation between any of us except our appearance. And if we look at the countries, they've got borders. Oh, that's divisiveness, right? So that's and we need to just, I'm not going to say, people will always ask me, well, how long is it still going to take? Why are you looking for a savior outside of yourself? When you want to make the world a better place, it starts with you. So it's like I said, he talks about a vast array of topics, even the fact that there is no death. Because there is no death.
Yeah.
We lose our physical garment and that's it.
It's an
and
illusion.
Yet, yes, it is an illusion. But it's so ingrained within us. And the same like when people talk about, I find it quite funny, aliens. Oh, really? Aliens? Oh, but actually it's you guys that have alienated yourselves from the rest of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And the obstacles too, like that
Yeah.
I've channeled him quite a few times, and he talks to me about the obstacles that are in place, not only because of our own fault, but also because of them. You know, the elites, those that are in body trying to suppress and put those obstacles in front of us to suppress our true being, and trying to, get past that. And also, he also tells me too in the past the experience when you were talking about experiences and reality, that there is no such thing as reality. If you had two or more people sitting there in front of you and you were going to give all of them the same experience, truly they are not experiencing the same thing. They're all receiving the information differently, and their experience is different from the next. So
Absolutely. Yes.
So for those who don't know what that means, if I explain that correctly, there's no, our perception of things, there's two differentiations between the real or the truth is experiences and perception. So, if that makes sense.
Yeah, true. No, it does make sense. But no, but how we each experience life, we can stand in the same room and we'll have a different perspective of one thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Oof. Yeah, we could definitely do more shows on this. But
yeah. So, but yeah, Saint Germain, all about transformation of the human character. Back to the light of it's back to I always say, back to the gem of the light of who we truly are.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, people that want to reach out to you and for the to your, they can find everything. They can contact you through your website, correct? And you're also on social media.
Yes, correct. Yes, I am.
And for those
I am.
and for those who are going to listen to this on their podcast, is her website is powersoulhealing.com. So you're on Facebook, Instagram, and everything out there. Now, explain a little bit to everybody what they expect when they go to your website. What can they look forward to, and what kind of help would they need or looking for?
So I do have my readings, but that's merely a guide, as I always say, a guide, and it's not like people come to me, about the job, about the relationship, about the house, all the physical. It's really about how to uncondition, deconditioned within the human psyche, so to speak. And second, I'm a light language healer. So that is something, it's not very common here in the UK. I know in the US it's more up and coming. And I mean, I've only started doing it like 1.5 years ago, but I love it because it's very, very powerful. And on a conscious level, your mind is not going to understand it. You think, what the heck is she saying? Because it's very ancient, it's very galactic.
Yeah.
I channel many of them. I work a lot with Lord Sananda. And in one of his incarnations, he was Jesus Christ. Well, I always say to people, it wasn't his last incarnation. His last incarnation was Apollonius of Tijuana, and he was a healer in that lifetime. And I also work a lot with the Archangel Michael and a lot with the other galactic beings. And it's very powerful. People actually love it, and it really helps them to move forward with their lives. But as I always say, we're all tools in the toolbox. Whether you decide to use these tools is entirely up to you.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect on my website. And then I talk a little bit about my life story, and you'll find all my podcasts on there as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, there's so many people that watch all these metaphysical shows and I get this question a lot from a lot of people, but all us practitioners out here have a different way to explain it.
Yep.
And the biggest question is, those who want to enlighten themselves and step out of this false reality and seek truth, is what is the first step? What is how? What is your recommendation or on explaining to people in layman's terms how to seek this enlightenment?
Well, first of all, it's by taking responsibility for your life, your accountability, because you're the captain of your own ship. Nobody else is in the driver's seat but you. And many people have disempowered themselves, and sometimes they don't see that on a conscious level, but it's all about taking back that power, the I am power. And once you take accountability for your life, then however you decide you want to move forward with healing, that's entirely up to you. But some tips that I always give to people, if you want to have a little bit more clarity within your mind, merely listen to meditations by David J.I., and they're like 20 minutes. He has them on fear, on anxiety, on getting rid of any kind of conditioning. He's got too many of them, and all you need to do is plug in your earphones, especially in the morning, before you start the day, and you'll feel much better. And he works a lot with the breath, because the breath is very important, because we do not breathe properly We breathe about till here. It's called shallow breathing.
Yeah.
And that's why we live so shallow. We live so much on the surface of ourselves because we daren't dive too deep within ourselves. Because, we think this is all there is, but there isn't. There's so much more. So that's one way, or you listen to 432 hertz on YouTube, which also recenters yourself. And if you want a very simple breath technique, then start with breathing in from your root chakra all the way to your crown chakra. 4 counts, hold it for 4, and then breathe out again for 4. And if you just do that 10 minutes a day, you will become clearer. So the junk kind of like it clears your mind. But not only that, I think it's really key. If you declutter your home, you also declutter your mind. These are just very simple things. Or if you just want to ground yourself, go to the park, go to the beach, do whatever you fancy. If that's running, go do that. That's, I think, very, very simple first steps. And the other thing, very important as well, do not blame other people, because that is how you deflect, and you keep deflecting. And it's all about reflecting.
Yeah. Blaming others is, that can get us into a lot of trouble. We have
It does, yes.
Yeah. And not only that, not us, but the person that you're blaming is going to come. Eventually, that blame's going to come back onto you.
Oh, yeah,
no
absolutely.
weight on your shoulders, and we have to accept the responsibility for our own actions.
Yes, we do. And even as I said before, even if something happened that is not your fault, or you were a child, still forgive yourself and eventually forgive that other person. It's not hard, but it's something that we need to relearn, or we need to retrain our brain that's been so conditioned. And the mind, that's Buddha actually, the mind is everything that you become. But the mind, what you think, you create and does manifest. That's not rocket science, because we're energy. We just don't see it. And there's a perfect example that I'll always give. When you take a shower, right, and it steams up, and you wave your hand through the steam, that is energy.
Yeah. Now, before one of the very last topics last question I want to touch on before we end the show is, what has been thus far the biggest breakthrough experience you've had with a client?
Wow, there's been a few, but that's a tough one, because there's been a few.
They're all breakthroughs, right? If it's good, when the work is good and it's truth and it lies within, true love, it's a breakthrough for anybody.
Yes, it is. I mean, I've helped many people break away from toxic relationships, overcoming their own fears. One of them had to go into hospital for surgery, heart surgery, and she was really scared. Oh. And so I did like 5 or 10 minutes of light language on her. And I just was actually done over the phone. And she went into hospital the next day, wasn't even worried. So then she called me and she's like, do you know what? I walked in and I was just fine. I did the surgery and nothing, I was just fine. Another one who was stuck in a very toxic relationship, she decluttered her whole home, room by room. And whilst it's probably about 80% better, she struggles with the last bit and the physical part. So it's almost like, how do I put this? So she suffers from several ailments. But as I said to her, there is only so much that I can do, because when it comes to ailments, even though I can help people, sometimes they need to figure it out themselves, because these are the experiences that they've gravitated towards, and they need to go through the hoops of going inward and figuring this out.
Mm-hmm.
So whilst light language is a great tool, people will still need to do the work. But she's done leaps and bounds in the last couple of months. And I've helped people that suffered from alcohol abuse. And sometimes, Paul, this goes back to past lives as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just this lifetime, but sometimes it's past lifetimes. And like I said, I've been in that same boat, from lifetimes on Earth to galactic lifetimes. And I've also come very far, but that doesn't mean that I don't get healing done. I do. I, from time to time, get light language healing done, just to quick me up and to tune me up, so that I can also progress, move forward in life. And I think that's just really important. Just because we're healers doesn't mean that we don't go and see healers, because we do.
Absolutely. Yeah, we need a recharge.
Yeah, we do.
We need to recharge and unplug.
Yes. Actually, now that you're talking about unplugging, hello, it's time to unplug from the matrix and plug back into source.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's amazing. And you can definitely agree with this. The first step is to recognize that we are our own worst enemy.
Yes.
We're our own critic. We sabotage ourselves. And the first step is to ask that question, but not to ask the question to, your friends or family. Ask that question to yourself. Stand in front of the mirror, look at yourself in the eyes, which can be scary at times, depending on what time of day you do it.
Yeah.
And ask that question to the higher self, and the answers will come to you in the most miraculous ways.
So now you talk about the mirror. My dad, when I was younger, he always said to me, he's like, stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself that you love yourself. Do that every day. Do you know how difficult that is for people?
Yeah.
And he was actually a big fan of Mandino. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And still, to this day, I can't always tell myself I love myself, but I don't look at myself the way I used to. So it's not like I see some ugly figure, because sometimes people look at themselves and everything is from beauty from the outside, but everything comes from within. We're all beautiful people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have to see everybody as who they are, not how they look, but who they are, and see the character. Not judging that book by its cover. That's the biggest cliche
ever.
Whichever everybody needs to remember that we might be walking around look like a book, but until you open up those pages, and it does take time. There's a lot of people out there. I've known them for a couple years or a year. Do you truly still know them? If you don't hang around with them long enough, you never truly will know them. But
that's the thing. And then there's one thing that it's funny you mentioned that, because Saint Germain always says this, but he went to me, Brigitte, but do you truly know who you are? And do you truly know who everyone else is that you come across? You don't, because they always portray themselves as someone else to every single person. And many people still wear masks. He calls it the ball masquerade. And it's just time to drop those masks, because how can you ever be your most authentic selves? And I know authenticity gets thrown around so much, but it's merely just being true to yourself. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and getting off of autopilot. Everybody's on this autopilot, like walking around like zombies and
That's the
caught up
grid
into the
for
human
you.
condition and the physical world.
Absolutely, but then we get that consumerism in play. All the advertising, the media that's run by these conglomerates. Well, let's not say
Yeah.
I put a
They know how
conglomerate.
it works. They
They know how
know
it
how it
works.
works.
Absolutely.
They have mastered the human psyche and the human condition, and they know where our flaws are.
Yes,
So
and that's precisely what they
they,
play on. Well, it
they
doesn't work
take
for
advantage
me
of it. Yeah.
because I've stepped out of that grid a long time ago. They always say, and I know you're going to laugh. They say that, I say the Earth, the only planet in the universe that where you incarnate that you have to pay to live. And
Yeah.
it's an insane asylum. So many people are stuck in that conditioning. They're on this drip feed in this asylum. And then there are those that are, they suddenly wake up, take out the drip feed, and then walk out the door, hop the fence, and they're like, oh my God, but the world is so different than what we've been taught to believe.
Yeah. And one day, coming soon, that we'll all be freed from it. So.
We will be. It's going to take a couple of years, but there's a lot of it that's breaking down. They always say they can't, the light beings, or I call them the light beings as a whole. They cannot. How do I put it? They need to take it down brick by brick, because if they were to do it at once, people's brains would be. Yeah.
That could be our next show, is talking about the transition, the cosmic transition that's actually happening.
Yeah.
We are feeling it on this planet.
Oh.
But this is happening everywhere in our especially our solar system. But
yes,
this is not very unique to just our planet.
No, it's not. That is true. You hit something there, because even though the draconians, the reptilians, the chimeras have chosen Earth as their bolt hole right now, and their playbook is very still, as in still, STALE. I'm bored of it. I've told them that, I'm bored of it, and because I've seen it on so many other planets before. But what happens is, you're right, it causes a ripple effect. What they're doing causes a ripple effect in the whole solar system, because it's energy.
Yep. That's definitely a topic for another show. There's so much detail I'd like to give and get your input too, especially with the Ascended Masters, and getting a little bit of juicy details on some of the galactics too.
Yeah.
I'll be having some other discussions with some other people I know here locally, and we've been talking. We talk about it every month on a one-on-one physical group that we get together, and reaching out to the galactics.
Yeah.
And getting information and showing us what's happening, and then I'll channel. Everybody else is channeling and doing their own thing.
That's great.
And yeah, it's awesome. So
that's amazing.
We'll touch base on that on another show.
Yep.
But that concludes our broadcast. But we are definitely looking forward to bringing up more subjects and talk about some more of your work in more of our shows. And again, for those who want to go reach out to you, they can find you on your website, powersoulhealing.com. And what do you have for a takeaway? What would you like everybody to words of wisdom?
Words of wisdom. Wow.
It was all. Yeah, we covered it. you probably said it 15 times, different things.
Yes. Always be you, not who the world wants you to be. It doesn't matter what people think of you. The important thing is what you think about yourself and how you feel about yourself. And rather than be swayed by the opinions of others, just, take reel your I am power back in, and stop giving your power away.
Yeah.
That would be my last bit of wisdom. If you want to live a more authentic life, then just be true to yourself.
Absolutely. Very well put. Definitely.
And you got a problem? Hug it out with yourself. Embrace yourself, love yourself, forgive yourself, and do the same to others.
Amen. Yeah. Brigitte, thank you very much for joining us today. Humbled with your presence today. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much, Paul.
You are very, very welcome. For all of those who are watching, listening, please click subscribe, like, follow, share. And until next week, we will see you on our next broadcast.